I didn't know Bess has a driver's license, but apparently she does. She just bought a used yellow Camaro, her first ever car. It gets stolen in under an hour. This is what happens when you're friends with Nancy Drew. You become the victim of endless crimes. Argo Font Book Review. Argo Font Book Review. Before the theft, Bess catches the eye of Dirk Walters, who went to school with them. He's a drag racer, and he invites them to a race on Friday. Sounds like Bess needs a hot guy to go with her hot car. Nancy and Bess search for the missing car. Luckily for them, the thief took the car out for a joyride for several hours. Nancy gets a good look at the thief, and there's a minor car chase. Nancy can't catch the culprit this early on in the book, so he manages to lose them near the warehouse area. Nancy and Bess meet 3 police officers in charge of car thefts. Stan Powderly loves donuts. Does Powderly love powdered donuts? Beatty Hawkins has a mullet, and he's often moody. Maybe he hates his hair. Detective Raul Quinones is in charge. At first, he does the typical angry police officer routine, where he complains, "This is serious police business, far too dangerous for random civilians." Later on, Chief McGinnis tells Quinones that Nancy has solved at least 30 murders in this series by now, so he'd better let her in on the investigation. Quinones becomes Nancy's best friend after that. The culprits try to scare Nancy away from the warehouse area by running her over. Clearly, she's on the right track. So Nancy decides to completely give up on investigating the warehouses. Oh, okay. Instead, Nancy stakes out the area where the car was stolen. She almost catches the culprit breaking into a car, but Bess accidentally falls over. The culprit hears the noise and runs away. Nancy gives his car-breaking device to the police so they can fingerprint it. Sadly, one of the cops is a criminal. He purposely wipes the evidence clean. Quinones says it's gotta be either Powderly or Hawkins. Nancy and Bess go to the drag race. Nancy sees the car thief. His name is Jimmy. Jimmy sells a car part to Dirk. Then he talks with Dirk's mechanic, Kitty. Kitty's working for the thieves. We know this because she criticizes Jimmy for almost getting caught. Nancy should confront them right away, but for the sake of the plot, she goes away for a bit. She returns a few pages later to find Jimmy dead under a car. When Nancy questions Dirk, he gets so angry he refuses to talk to her anymore. Dirk goes straight to Kitty and warns her to hide from the police. He does this in a very public fashion. There are multiple witnesses. The book ignores the fact that this is a crime. Dirk is interfering in an active murder investigation. He should be questioned, maybe even arrested for this. But since Dirk is Bess's love interest, he gets a free pass for his crimes. The next day, the culprit cuts Dirk's brakes in the drag race. Dirk crashes and is taken to the hospital. Dirk's brother is so scared by this, he takes Nancy to meet with Kitty. Kitty confesses Jimmy is her brother. They work together by stealing cars. They take orders from a middleman. Kitty points at the 2 police officers, says, "He's the guilty one!" and then she runs away. Well, that's supremely unhelpful. Not only did Kitty play the pronoun game, but she pointed at 2 people. How's Nancy supposed to know if the culprit is Hawkins or Powderly? On the way home, Nancy notices Hawkins' car is following them. Nancy gets into a second car and starts following Hawkins. He goes to the warehouse area. Nancy quickly searches his car and finds evidence which indicates he's the culprit. The next day, Powderly tells everyone he's got a plan to capture Hawkins at the warehouse. Powderly accidentally gives himself away as the true culprit by mentioning the evidence. He couldn't have known what the evidence is unless it was fake evidence that he planted. Nancy and her friends walk into Powderly's trap. She finds an injured Hawkins inside the culprit's chop shop. Powderly arrives with a gun. In typical villain fashion, he gives a big speech which explains his role in all of the crimes. Nancy sprays Powderly with blue spray paint, while Dirk tackles his legs. This doesn't work. Powderly quickly regains control of the situation. In the next chapter, Hawkins starts wiggling as a distraction. That does work, and our heroes escape. I find it amazing that Powderly can handle being physically attacked and spray painted in the face, but he can't handle a guy wiggling on the floor on the other side of the room. This chapter is pretty cool. Quinones smashes through a skylight on the ceiling and lands on a car. Nancy uses her karate moves to disarm Powderly. It's like a scene from an action movie. Besides for the wiggling guy distraction, that is. The bad guys are arrested, and Bess gets her car back. The end. Post-book follow-up. Bess was pretty funny in this book. She has a few comedy scenes. Her dad co-signs on the car loan. He doesn't want the car to get stolen again, so he rents the worst, oldest car he can find as a replacement. Bess doesn't know how to put up the car's hood, so she gets rained on. It's funny stuff, but the raining scene happens in the middle of the murder investigation. It feels out of place to have jokes about rain while you're driving to a murder scene. I like this book, but I thought the story slowed down too much in the middle third. I got a little bored and lost interest, until Nancy left the racetrack and went back to the crooked cop investigation. I'm not sure why I found the middle third boring. That's where the murder happens. It should be the most interesting part. I guess the car theft and the crooked cop mysteries were so interesting they overshadowed the murder. The subplots are too interesting is not a bad problem to have, though. Fans seem to dislike this book. I thought it was okay. It's good for the series. If I had to rewrite this book, I wouldn't make that many changes. I would just punch up the middle third so it's a lot more interesting, and then I'd smooth out some of the weird decisions that Nancy makes. She makes multiple decisions which fit the needs of the plot. They come across as slightly odd, not as natural, organic choices on her part. So I'd make those changes, and then the book would be a dynamite mystery. As it is, I give Nancy Drew Files number 71 Hot Tracks an 8 out of 10.